Well, good day, all. Welcome to Alchemy Within from Out Amongst the Stars. I'm Diana, and here we are today to talk about a really big transit of the year, of the next 20 years, actually. And we had a little taste of this in the spring, and this is Pluto will be going now into Aquarius, and it will be there until 2043, 2044. It kind of dabbles back and forth between Aquarius and Pisces after the next 20 years. We will have another dip back, just as we dipped in the spring of 2023. So March 23rd until June 11th, we had a little taste of Pluto into Aquarius. And if you go back to that time in your lives and just check out what was happening for you and what kind of was feeling uh, different in the big collective energy. There was a lot of talk around all the technological advances of AI and what that's going to bring. And yeah, we will see likely a lot more of that as we go forward. So this is a really big transit. It's going to feel like it really is the beginning of the year for 2024, I feel, because we are also uh, going to be leaving the Mercury shadow behind. We were in the Mercury retrograde that went forward January 1st of 2024. And as we now are going past that December, we had a shadow period and retrograde in December, but those degrees of 8 degrees of Capricorn was where it stationed, and so now we'll be getting past that with the Mercury. So with that, and the Pluto ingress, and the Sun just prior to that hitting the Pluto, it is a really, really big transit weekend, and the energy will feel very, very much different. And most of the planets also are in forward motion. We still have the Uranus to go forward, and we'll be stationing near the end of the month here, which is not very far away from this ingress of Pluto. So as far as the dates go, that Pluto ingress will be for January 20th. And prior to that, though, it's very interesting because the Sun is conjunct Pluto right at the very last degree of Capricorn, 29:59 minutes. That's going to be happening right around 6:46 Mountain Time, so you can adjust for your time zone wherever you are, and that will be a real interesting change as we see the illumination and a lot of heat activation of that big part of our what lights us up and our life force energy hitting that that Pluto part. Can it feel like I am empowered? Yes, it absolutely can. And it could also feel like, a death and rebirth moment is getting lit up too. So there's a lot of uniqueness around the whole entrance of Pluto into Aquarius this time around because of this conjunction prior to. So we will be seeing then as we get later in the day with the Pluto into Aquarius, it'll be right around that 5:50 p.m. Mountain Time. But as the Sun wanting to reveal to us, what our life path is, what's our truth? Like, let's get into the underground of what's been happening since 2008 when we had Pluto. So here's our Pluto here, just at 0 degrees of Aquarius. And in 2008, that's when Pluto moved from Sagittarius into Capricorn. And so it's been in Capricorn, besides that little dip in the spring of 2023 from March to June. It's been in this Capricorn energy. And yes, they both are ruled by Saturn, but the Pluto in Capricorn has really revealed a whole bunch of things around that that whole patriarchal, hierarchical systems and structures and institutes and all of the, big banking, big business, the way we um, are educating ourselves and our kids, the way we're eating, the way we are doing, all the different, um, health cares and different type of things that are actually really been under a lot of shakeups, and so it's just a matter of now how are we going to see some of these structures that we've had move forward with in the big corporate and the government and um, you know big tech companies and all of these different kinds of very structured type of businesses and institutes. And we also seen a real huge economic downturn when 2008 happened, and that was right with that Pluto ingress into Capricorn. So now as it moves into Aquarius, what does this mean for all of us? Aquarius, if we go back to uh, the actual significations of what Aquarius is, well, it's everything to do with our, um, it's like an air sign, first of all. And it's also ruled by Saturn traditionally, but it really has a lot to do with a real higher perspective. And sometimes it can bring a lot of innovation, revolution. It doesn't want to conform. It's a huge humanitarian. It's the truthsayer, the inventor, the very futuristic. A lot of inventors, a lot to do with technology is based around the archetype of Aquarius. It puts on the observer a lot of times. It can be very emotionally detached, and it likes to do its own thing. It doesn't want to fit inside the box. That Aquarian energy is, more about community and grassroots up, but it also really expresses in its own individual way and likes, that uniqueness. And it really likes to, um, you know, be the one who goes into the future and brings the knowledge back to everyone. And it seems to be someone who often knows, a lot of things before they happen because it's gone and done that research, or it's even had some, interesting own insights or downloads that have come from seemingly out of nowhere at times. Even though it's very oriented towards, groups and communities and societies and, collaborating, it is building things in that, like I said, in that grassroots up foundation. So it's bottom up rather than the top down energy. And and then if you're talking about like a moon in Aquarius, they can be the ones that are, and in Aquarius in general, can be emotionally detached somewhat. They really want to look after others in the humanitarian way and make sure it's best for the collective. But sometimes they can come across as like cool or just, so intelligent. And yeah, they might be friendly, but, sometimes has a hard time making that real emotional connection. And, will often not really want to be part of the status quo and kind of, has that standalone energy. So, they can be brilliant and also activist oriented at times, and are not worried about not fitting in, and can be radical at times as well. So finding that emotional connection often for that Aquarius archetypes is, not as easily accessible, but, they can be innovative and open-minded and, even though sometimes feeling detached or can be unpredictable or, really highly, intense in their mind and, want to be right. And they have a real need for uh, freedom and they really love the intellectual stimulation and but like to have that sense of purpose and you know it's then a matter of finding in that Aquarius archetype the balance between emotional intimacy and your the independence, right? So if we look at when Aquarius um, or Pluto was in Aquarius the last time, it was from 1977 to 1799. So during that time, that's when like individual rights became very important. There was actually an American Revolution that happened between 1775 and 1783, and the French Revolution as well that began in 1789. So on a more personal level, as opposed to the collective, um, we could often see a lot more scientific breakthroughs, a lot of innovation, a lot of technology, a lot of exploration, a lot of things coming out from the future. And we can see people wanting to operate with a lot more freedom and not conforming to all of our hierarchical institution, big corporate, big government kind of ways. So the Pluto is going to really bring that out into the forefront. And as you obviously probably have heard archetypes around Pluto, which are the big one, transformational, and death and rebirth. It can be it's regenerative, and it can burn things down to a pile of ashes, and then it's like the phoenix rising from the ashes as it renews something. So it's not the end of something, it's a death and rebirth. It's that, you know, bringing things that are no longer working, no longer serving you, no longer part of your life that need to be transformed. Um, and sometimes it's can be deep and dark and going into the shadows of the underworld in order to do so. However, on the other side of, you know, going into some of those, deepest, more, I wouldn't say like they're like surface fears, they're more unconscious fears, things that we're not even aware of that were, part of us, but they were kind of hidden in the unconscious or subconscious that need to be really worked at. It can have lots to do with secrets and compulsions and obsessions and power and control dynamics and manipulation and places where you felt like things were might have been violated and it's a matter of finding that place to work through that, allow yourself to feel the emotions, to process. I do that work. I am, work with emotional empowerment, and I also have a scanner that can really check where your energy and emotional levels are, see where you're distorted, see where maybe we need to do some work. Um, for this month, it's actually part of a session with me where you can actually get the scan for free and have a look at all the like over 100 points of where your energy is at, where your emotions are at, and I'm offering the support to go along with that because often like when these big energies are around and we're going through a huge transition in life, we need that emotional support. So I always bring in the astrology. It's also a tool, as well as the bioenergetics scanning is also a tool with the work that I do for support. It's based around emotions and the power versus force scale of consciousness, which I've spoke about in other videos. So when we are feeling in that real, depths of the underworld, or there's, secrets or things that need to have been brought to light, guilts and shames and those sorts of things. Uh, that's a Pluto really digging things up that need to be uncovered. There's buried parts of us always. As a human, we all have an element of pain and suffering. We all have transformation. It's part of our evolution. And we're going to see really fast evolution with Aquarius. So there could be a lot of things that just want to fall away and want to crumble. And learning how to work through the emotions of letting that go and the grieving process that comes along with it um, might be a place that you'll need some support in while we go through some of these transits. So yeah, it's Pluto's all to do with power, empowerment, also transformation is and death and rebirth, of course, are the key words there. So as we work through what is to come with this, we want to realize, like, what is our potential? What are we here? What's our unique purpose, passions? What are the parts of us that have been buried underneath, that have been not allowing our real soul to express who we are? Because Pluto wants us to express our most authentic soul self. And the Aquarius wants us to be that individual that we are, that unique part of us that wants to come out. Is now that time. So if there's been a way that you've just been kind of going along to get along, Pluto's probably going to show you a little different pathway. And whether that's in this next ingress in this next year, or it is going forward over the next 20 years. And of course, this all has a lot to do with what house the Pluto is going through. So look for where your Aquarius house is. So don't mind how this chart is set up. It's just the way that it came out with where I'm located. However, it actually is in my first house. So that's a major first house transit. And actually, I'm going to be talking about the various significations of the houses, and then Pluto going through them in a different separate videos, because there's a lot to it, and then it'll allow that all to be separated. And because this is such a big transit, we'll just do it in sections. But yeah, if you have Pluto in your first house, it is about self. If you have you have Pluto in Aquarius over in the seventh house, that's all to do with relationships and contracts. And if it's up here in the top of your chart, that's about your outer world. And down in the bottom of your fourth house, that's your inner world, where you go to retreat, home, family, land, property, that sort of thing. So there's a whole bunch of different places where this is going to affect everybody. And like I said, we'll go through that in more detail in another video. But as the sun, first of all, wants to shine some light on that Pluto right before it entered, that's maybe wanting to show us where it is in those hidden parts of self, hidden parts of our underworld, where things have been not working for us in some of the hidden agendas, or patriarchal structure systems that as we leave this Capricorn. So as mentioned, it had been in Aquarius from that March 23rd to June 11th. It will be now get up to about 2 degrees of Aquarius, and it will retrograde back and will dip into that anaretic degree, which is where we've been sitting in Capricorn in the fall again. So around September 1st, until the around the 19th or so of November. Pluto will dip back. So I actually put that here. So I actually have a transit from, going forward right around September 2nd. Pluto will be at that anaretic degree. It'll have shifted fully then back into the last degree of Capricorn. Um, and that will be September 2nd. It will be there until November 19th. And that's the anaretic degree. That's kind of a, that's a critical point. That's a culmination point. That's a completion point. And so whatever at that point has been revealed as no longer working, for sure, that might be in the, still lingering underbelly, undersurface of any messy, um, sort of hidden things that have been lurking around in the shadows. They'll be brought really to the forefront then as we then fully move forward, in that by the last 6 weeks of this year, 2024. And so, yeah, there'll be a lots of, revelations of and lots of change. So I just want everybody to feel like comfortable in the fact that we might feel uncomfortable. And because we have a lot of futuristic energy here, and we all, as a collective in this world, are really used to, especially in the Western culture, we're really, really used to this, Capricornian structure. Everyone's been very reliant on that, and really, had all the trust and faith in it in lots of ways. Many, many, many people have. Others haven't, of course. Others have seen what's been going on behind the surface, but we're going to see more of what's really been happening, beyond the surface of some of these, big structures, big corporate institutes and government bodies, or those type of things that are, potentially just been overtaken by too much, you know, money. And not like there's anything wrong with money. Money's a wonderful exchange of energy in this world, and we all need it. And we all need it to survive on Earth, and we all need to know our value and know our worth, and we all, need to have a good flow and exchange of that energy of money. And but when it becomes um, something where it starts to take over people's sense of integrity, or gets too involved in the corrupt parts of it, that's where we need to have shifts in our and things be called out, right? Where things need to shift and change and evolve and grow and be better for the collective and for human um, conditions. Some are tragic, and I know we've just had already a shift where, like, there has been in our area a real taking charge of the homeless situation in the severe weather, right? So you know that was just already, that energy was in play with that happening. Instead of it just kind of being a temporary fix for a very short period of time, there's a real crisis situation. And that's what Pluto brings, is often those real crisis situations, to shift and change and transform for the better of the of of everyone in the collective. So I just wanted to really share with you today how we are going into a whole new energy. If you're feeling uncomfortable or any fears, then any things that are just falling apart that you never even expected needed to go, be okay with letting them go. Find ways to support yourself through the transformation, and our whole levels of consciousness of what we actually are being made aware of is really coming out and changing and growing and evolving, and it's evolving us as humans, um, totally in the world as we know it. And it won't look the same after our 20 years. We could predict some things that we, um, maybe would see in, all those, like space cartoons and different kinds of, different kinds of things that wanted to share with us what our future would look like. Some of those things could actually come into our awareness and come into our world. And there's a lot of different technologies that are going to change how we do life and how people are looked after, and different procedures that are going to be available. um, there's lots of innovation happening in that, and it's happening very, very quickly. So that's really actually exciting. We'll be able to see what's kind of happening. So just allow yourself to be aware of um, where you feel like you want to have a complete revolution in your life, where you want to do life different, where you want to do your um, you know what's expected of you and your families, your children, and how the systems that we had in place may not be working anymore, and may not be the way that you want to encourage some of the way that young people are doing things, because going that's not going to work in our world. How it was, it's not going to work as well as it did, as we were taught by our parents and growing up. There wasn't this massive shift like there's going to be. So alternative viewpoints, be open to them, because uh, there's there's a whole new way of life coming into the everyday and how we're doing it, so that it isn't all about just being that goat that wants to continue to climb the mountain. you know this is about having our own personal freedom and being able to be more creative, and there doesn't have to be so many rules. It allows us to be more our individual selves in our lives. And sometimes you know people might have thought some people were weird because they did different things, and uh, now that's going to be a lot more acceptable. And so funny, because I actually I remember before I knew I was an Aquarius rising, which there it is. Yep, it's it's coming to the forefront now for sure, because I don't do life at all the same. And looking at people who I knew were Aquarius suns, I was like, why are they so weird? And then when I realized that I was the Aquarius rising and saw the reflection in myself, I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. I get it. So interesting how, there's these parts of us that we don't have access to. And then all of a sudden, when the, light does shine on them and we get to see those parts of ourselves, it's like, oh, now I understand. And then that's a nice part about astrology, is then there's no judgment that you have, because you can understand better how that particular archetype plays out, right? And those parts of ourselves that maybe weren't as acceptable before, and now we get to open ourselves up to a lot more of the uniqueness that we all have. And that's really, honestly, my whole passion is, like, as someone who grew up with a certain conventional type of way. And it was really hard for it was really hard for me to um, actually dive into who I truly was, because I thought I was somebody completely different growing up. And I kind of always did my own things and that kind of thing. But it really has been an eye opener to be able to um, find this part of myself I never knew existed when I was when I was younger. Somebody that was interested in you know teaching and sharing about this kind of thing. I've always been a communicator, but I had a whole different idea of who it is that I you know thought that I was. And it has allowed that um, it has allowed a lot more of an open mind, and a lot um, more, easier to understand certain relationships. It's been very helpful with my own daughter, and I recommend highly, even just starting with understanding the elements in which you and your children and your immediate family members operate under mostly. And is that, the earth, air, water, fire, and being able to nurture that and have compassion for what their needs are in those, particular areas. So, even if I uh, gave you that information, even in a small 20-minute read, which I think is like 44 US. Um, and we talked a little bit about the elements in your chart, just so that you can, really understand yourself first, and then how it, relates to others. So helpful. And very, very helpful. I mean, there's so many layers and so much to learn, and so much information when it comes to astrology, but it can express in all kinds of different ways. But it's a really nice tool to help us each individually understand our human nature and how it is that we come into this life to operate. And also knowing that we all have that connection to divine source. We all came down basically with that big old file folder of like, this is what your MO is. This is what your purpose is. This is the life path that you are meant to go on, uncover, discover. Some people do it faster than others. I wasn't that fast. I mean, I had some experiences in certain things that moved along quite well, and some real hardship in my 20s though, to get me to a different phase. And then um, I'd sure like to be able to share my knowledge with anybody in their 20s. Because if I would have only known what I know now, things would have been a lot different. That's for sure. It would have been so much more helpful to understand myself better, because my choices may have been a whole bunch different, and things, in my own evolution would have moved along a lot quicker, because, that part of it's our own free will, right? We can drag on our life lessons as long as we choose. And if we don't quite get them all, we'll have another try at it. But it's just makes life a lot easier and flow a lot easier. So I had a lot of Plutonian under the surface. Mine, I think, was in the 8th house for this lifetime. So it's yeah, always very interesting to see where it is in your chart, uh, how it is affecting you collectively. So you're going to look for the transit of it in the Aquarius house, but you can also look at where it is in, which house and which sign it is in your chart. There's, you know, uh, certain generations. So, Pluto, say, in Gemini was, back in the 1800s to 1914, we had Pluto in Gemini. And in it was then in Cancer from 1914 to 1939. Pluto in Leo 1937 to 1958. Um, Pluto in Virgo from 1956 to 1972. So that one I relate to. That's where mine is. It's um, very methodical, right? That's what I thought. And sharp-minded, yes, but looking after all the details in the big picture, except the fact of the matter is that's where I needed to transform, because I also have South Node there and North Node in the Pisces house, which is the opposite. So those are the kinds of things that you want to look at in your chart, um, and see how you are to transform. Pluto in Libra, 1971 to 1984. I'm talking about these ones now because it's getting more into our area of what we relate to, of when we were all born. So the Libra, passionate about injustice. They get really fired up about everything, to do with the, inequality or, equity in life. And they have obsessions with, trying to find balance and harmony and the agreement and what came up during this time. The Pluto in Scorpio, 1983 to 1995. These are, getting now into, say, the millennial generation, right? Um, More are very much about the astrology. And, um, the Pluto in Scorpio is very highly perceptive, right? Concerned with getting to the core truths of what's been going on in the world. They're have a real great ability to see through lies and manipulation and at a personal level. And you know they have this they have this kind of ability just to see things from a whole, like, different perception, right? Pluto in Sagittarius, 1995, 2008. They're looking for the deeper meaning of, one's existence. Where's the big truth of, and how are their ideologies or spirituality or religious beliefs, how did they form and come together, and knowing more about that on a global scale. And there is that transformation in the way that we have been communicating, because the internet came in, and all the different cultures. And it's a real um, looking at that Sagittarius, that big, higher, bigger picture, the big, broader scheme, and all of the belief systems in there. Pluto in Capricorn, 2008 to 2024. So, of course, that's, the babies that have been born and born up till now, up till today, as we're going into, Pluto in Aquarius. And, it is that government hierarchies, control, and transformation, but it's the purging of all of these rules and regulations, and finding that more, sort of, big corporate way of doing things shifting. And speaking of shifting, Pluto in Aquarius, which is starting now, as I mentioned before, the last time it was there was 1977 to, 1777 into 1799. And it's revolutionary. It's radical. It's independent. It's outside the box. It's innovative. It's technological. It is about an exploration of a whole different way of being and living in this world together, collectively, as a community, in our own unique selves, what we're passionate about, how we want to do it, how we want to bring our particular skill set, our gifts, our talents, our abilities into the bigger picture of the world as we know it, to work together in a more, even circular leadership type way, rather than this top down, and more connected. more community oriented. We'll see a lot of things happening, I feel, around, how we even do our food, which we started in my little area. I've lived here for, uh, you know, getting pushing that 20-year mark and never did this before. And it's just started in this year with my daughter is an adult of, hey, you got eggs. Hey, you got some of this and I got some of that. And, in the neighborhood, doing the food thing kind of back and forth together. And yeah, it's actually a really interesting and cool um, dynamic. I'm looking forward to it. It's an energy I resonate with a whole pile more. Um, and I, I'm looking forward to hearing everybody's experience on that. And again, if you need support, please reach out. My information is below. And I'll be talking to you some more about how this now would look at, the different houses. We quickly went through how it was in, different signs because it is a very generational energy. It moves very slow through the signs. So we've covered that, but the houses we'll look at because that lands different for everybody in everyone's chart. So have a great start to the year, and as we move forward, free and clear of the shadows of Mercury, diving into our new energy of Pluto and Aquarius. We have another several big transits coming up this year, but this is one of the majors, and we will now embrace the new energy. And yeah, hope everyone has a wonderful year and can feel the difference now compared to the last few. Okay, take care, everyone. We'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.